Hello, my name is Mohammed Damani. I'm the Regional Executive Chef for Mount Carmel Health System. So for the first recipe, I'll be preparing an apple avocado salsa. We have red pepper, Granny Smith apple, red onions, cilantro, avocado, limes, salt, and pepper. It's a very simple recipe, but very flavorful at the same time. So the first thing I'm going to be cutting is the red pepper. One of my tricks for cutting the red pepper is to put it up on its end and just shave down the side. This way you minimize the waste and you're able to get more yield out of the pepper. This right here is the waste part of the pepper. The rest of it is absolutely usable. For this recipe, we need half a cup of diced red pepper. To dice, I'm going to put the pepper right down. I'm going to cut down into strips. I'm going to turn the strips and then cut down this way. At this point, you can control how big or small your dice is. For a salsa, it's a personal preference. If you like it chunky, you can cut bigger pieces, absolutely, but I usually like to go about a medium dice, which is about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. So I'm going to cut down one more. Right here we have a little more than half a cup. With this recipe, measuring is not super important as far as the vegetables. If you want to be exact, you absolutely can, but for me, I'm just going to go ahead and mix all of this in there. For the next part of the recipe, we're going to cut down the green apple. So one of my tips for dicing an apple is actually similar to the pepper. I'm going to put the bottom end on the board. I'm going to hold it up, and I'm going to actually shave down slices till I get to almost the core. Then I'm going to turn it and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to lay it on the board. I can see the core right now. I'm just going to cut around it. Then right here is your waste. The rest of the apple you can use. For those last slices, you have a little seed that you can just pick out with the tip of your knife. And now as far as dicing the apple, you just take all these beautiful slices that you have. You lay them flat on the board. You can stack them on top of each other. And then you can do just similar to the pepper. You're going to cut strips. And try and keep them intact. Then you're going to turn the whole set of strips, and then just cut down. For these end pieces here, you can just cut down into strips. If you want even dices all the way through, you can lay these flat and then cut them that way. Or if it's a chunky salsa, so it's okay to have pieces that are a little bit different. But if you're looking for perfection, you can absolutely cut those the other way as well. Then for the end pieces of the apple, you just do the same. If you want to peel the apple, you absolutely can. I actually enjoy the texture of the apple peels in the salsa. It provides a little bit of contrast. Some people don't like to chew them, so that's absolutely fine to peel the apple ahead of time. But there are nutrients in the peel of the apple that are good for you. So you want to, your call, whichever way you want to go. So this recipe calls for 1 whole Granny Smith apple. So I have that diced up. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the bowl with the red pepper. Okay, so for the next step of the recipe, we're going to dice a red onion. As you can see, I did leave the root end on to keep that onion intact. The recipe calls for a 1/4 cup of red onion. I personally like more onion, so I'm going to put this entire half of an onion in there. We're going to slice down 3/4 of the way. Keep that intact. As you can see, the onion is cut and intact there. We're going to lay it down. We're going to take our knife, keep your fingers on top of the onion there, slice about 3/4 of the way down, and then do it one more time. Make sure you keep your fingers clear of the blade. And then we're just going to take our knife. As I said, the recipe calls for about 1/2 cup, or 1/4 cup, sorry, of red onion. I'm going to put a little more in there. Next step of the recipe is to cut the avocado. So this avocado I have here is ripe. The way that you can tell that it's ripe is you can press, and if you get any kind of firmness or resistance, it's not ripe. If it has a little bit of give, you can absolutely, you can tell it's soft and you can use it. Another way, this one actually has the little nub already removed, but if you have an avocado that has the little nub right there, if you pull it back and you see the color of it's like a creamy green color that you would see on the inside of the avocado, you can tell it's ripe that way as well. So to cut the avocado, this is actually, it can be dangerous, so just make sure that you're following these directions exactly. You want to lay it on the board. You can start it with your knife. You're going to feel the avocado pit about halfway down. Once you feel that, you're actually going to turn the avocado and rotate the blade around the tip, around the pit. And then you're going to twist it open, and then you have the avocado pit right there. This is where it's a little bit dangerous because you're going to have to pick it up after you do this. You want to come down with one motion, watch your fingers, right into the pit, just like that. You're going to hear the blade go right in there. Pick it up, and then you're just going to turn it just like that. And the pit comes out very easily. And then an easy way, this recipe calls for diced avocado. To dice the avocados, you take the half, you take a paring knife, and you're just going to not cut through the skin, but you're going to slide it down. You can actually feel the skin at the tip of the knife. Make sure you don't poke through. You're going to turn it. So you're actually dicing the avocado right in its shell. And then you take just an ordinary spoon. You're going to go around the inside of the avocado, and it'll come out in dices for you. We'll do the other half here. All right, the next thing we're going to do, we need 2 tablespoons of lime juice. So I have 2 limes. As I said, it's kind of a rustic recipe. You don't have to measure every single thing. With the limes, we're going to cut them right in half. And we have a juicer right here. Put the lime right in there. And I'm gonna use the juice of 2 limes. It says 2 tablespoons. That's about the juice of 2 limes. Squeeze the juice right in there. And one of the great things with the lime is it's going to keep that avocado nice and bright. Avocados have a tendency to oxidize and turn brown pretty soon after you cut them, but the lime juice helps to stop that process. Last thing we're going to put in there is some cilantro. So cilantro, you can use the stems. They're very flavorful. Some people do like to pick the cilantro off of the stems. With salsa, if you chop them fine enough, they add a lot of flavor, they add some texture, so I typically don't chop the entire stem off. I'll chop off about that much, and then I'll go ahead and chop the rest of the avocado. This can be saved, it can be composted. You can throw this into a Mexican chicken that you're slow simmering, and then pick the stems out. It'll add a lot of flavor. You can throw it into a roast. All sorts of things you can do with that. So don't have to be wasted, but you can absolutely throw them away if you must. With the cilantro, I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it into itself, kind of bunch it. This will make it easier to chop. And then hold that bunch together and take your knife. Just rock it back and forth. Anytime you're chopping like this, you want to make sure you move your hand down whenever you're chopping and not push the food into the blade. Once you have a rough chop, take the knife, scrape the herbs together, and chop down this way. Bring them back together, and you're going to keep going until you get the consistency that you want. Because this is a salsa, I like to leave the avocado a little bit leafier than I would if it were going in anything else, if it was going in, into a soup or something like that. About right there is good. The recipe calls for 4 tablespoons. If you like cilantro and you want to go more, absolutely. I'm just going to eyeball 4 tablespoons here. And then the last step of the recipe is salt and pepper. So it's just a taste. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of salt right on there. And a little bit of pepper. After you're done, absolutely taste it. If you think it needs a little bit more, you can add a little more afterward. You can always add more salt, but you can't take it away. So it's always good to start slow. One of the things that I did not do for the recipe was add the lime zest in. It's a personal preference. I personally don't like the taste or mouthfeel of lime zest, but if you were to zest the lime, you would do it before you juiced it. This is a microplane. This is something that is used to zest and grate different things. And in order to zest the lime, you would have just taken the microplane, hold this firmly in your hand, and you can just shave the zest right off. But again, we skipped that step in the recipe. Personal preference, if you want to add the lime zest, you can absolutely do it before you juice. Once I have all my ingredients in the bowl, I'm just going to give it a gentle stir. I don't want to mash the avocado, I just want to break it up. I want to make sure everything gets coated in the lime juice. That way the apples and avocado won't turn brown. This will stay in your fridge for probably about a day before you might see some discoloration. After you see that discoloration, it's still okay to eat, it's just not as pretty. And there you have the apple avocado salsa. A great salsa to put on tacos. You can put it on burgers, put it in wraps. Pairs well with a nice piece of fish, which we're actually going to be preparing today. You can just put the salsa right on top. If you like it spicier, you can add jalapenos, you can add cayenne pepper.